Some of the greatest heroes we have are the men and women of our military. And right here in our backyard, we have an amazing place called Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst. We're here now. We're getting some incredible access to the facilities and some of the great heroes who make things happen here. So let's go meet them. We are here and proud to be here with Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Brandenburg, 87th Civil Engineer Squadron. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for taking the time.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's get started by learning a little something about you.
Okay, well, a little bit something about me. I come from a small town in the Thumb area of Michigan called Seaboing. I grew up a hog farmer, spent the majority of my childhood, laboring on the farm and growing up in kind of that small town, patriotic kind of feeling, and then moved to the city, developed educationally, and then I entered college, seeking a degree at Purdue University in electrical engineering, and then I felt the calling of the nation, and the recruiters convinced me that you have something to give back to the country, so I pursued that, and here 16 and a half years later, I'm sitting here at Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst. My career has included everywhere between Alaska, serving in a joint billet with the Navy Seabees down in Mississippi. I've traveled overseas to Korea for a couple of years. I've been to England. I actually joined a special joint chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff program called AFPAC Hands, where I actually got a deep dive into language and cultural training for the country of Afghanistan. Worked at Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation, Livestock in the capital of Kabul. Deployed there for a year. Came back to the Washington, D.C. area, got a degree from the National Defense University, picked up my first command billet in Thule, Greenland, which is about 725 kilometers inside the Arctic Circle. Came back down to Texas for a couple years before being assigned here to Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst to command the 87th Civil Engineer Squadron.
Tell us about that. Tell us what the 87th Civil Engineer Squadron does, what their responsibilities are here at the Joint Base.
Okay, well, the Civil Engineer Squadron, as in most bases, actually encompasses a lot more than what most people could ever imagine. So when you hear civil engineer, what should naturally come to mind is, oh, so they must build things and they must repair things such as roads and buildings, do the carpentry, do the plumbing and the electrical work. Well, all that is true in the 87th Civil Engineer Squadron, but we also do a lot more. The other components that people don't typically associate with my squadron would be, we also run our emergency management program, we also have the fire department, and we also have the explosive ordnance disposal flight. So it's a pretty round myriad, and I said before, you might think of us as having the more traditional skill sets that a civil engineer would have. But even within that, of course, there's also some very unique avenues. So in addition to having the electricians and the power production people, the plumbers, the carpenters, we also have what we kindly refer to as the dirt boys, the people who do the roads, pavements. They do the snow removal for the base. But in addition to that, we also have pest management. So we take care of the rodents too that also come on base. We also have the service contract section, which is actually much larger here at this installation than most. And some of the larger contracts we deal with is the refuse, the janitorial, and the grounds maintenance. So again, a myriad of traditional things that you would associate with the term civil engineer, but also a whole lot more.
So tell us about your interaction with the communities around the area.
Okay, well, the communities in the local area mean as much to us as we hopefully do to them. So what's very unique about Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst is their positioning. So I often tell people is this: most installations, military installations that I have been part of, were usually co-located inside a larger city. And with that larger city, of course, you have more capability. That city brings certain services to where they're providing the electricity. They're providing their own fire emergency services, different things like that. Where we're maybe a little bit more unique, certainly not the only one, but maybe a little bit more unique in this area, is the base is actually larger than the surrounding community. So with that, we carry a lot of responsibility to also support the community in which we reside. And although I say responsibility, it's something that my people certainly wear with a lot of pride. So for instance, we have partnerships with both Burlington and Ocean counties. And in particular, I can tell you that our fire department, as of last year, had about 80 responses that were off base. Those included both structural fires, like personal homes. I believe one was at a church. We also do rescue for car accidents that were rather over and above, like actually extracting people from the cars. Our explosive ordnance disposal unit actually services 3 different states. So that includes New York, in addition to New Jersey, in addition to parts of Pennsylvania. So very wide range. And as you know, there's a lot of political activity, a lot of national, federal positions that do a lot of interactions here, to include POTUS himself, our president. He has a resort up in Bedminster. Well, as part of being part of that federal force for responding to potential explosive ordinances, we also help support our federal government counterparts in the various activities that come to this local area, to include the United Nations General Assembly that meets up in New York City. In addition to that, if that's not enough, our area of responsibility in some cases also include 2 remote Air Force installations. One is in Thule, Greenland, which is about 725 kilometers inside the Arctic Circle. Due to their remote location, they have very limited capability, so they would rely on us to do any kind of responses for any kind of emergency situations that are over and above their capability. The second installation that we also service is in the Azore Islands, an installation that we have there, which is a small set of islands off the coast of Portugal, which reside in the Atlantic Ocean.
Amazing amount of information. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Brandenburg, 87th Civil Engineers Squadron, thank you and all who you work with for your service to our nation, and we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Well, it's certainly our pleasure, and we do appreciate the community that we're in, because the community always responds. Thank you to the community, but I would like to say just one more thing. In the past couple of months, we had an unfortunate story where one of our firemen here on base, to which we actually have about 15 firemen that actually donate time and volunteer at their local fire departments. But in one case in particular, we had a Tech Sergeant Jason Penwell, and he was on his volunteer time working in the local fire station, and they received a call to respond to a house fire. Well, upon arriving on scene, come to find out that the house he responded to just happened to be his. Very unfortunate that it was his. The house turned out to be a complete loss, but where I want to express my thanks is to the local community for banding together. The local community did so much for him by setting up the GoFundMe page, taking donations, cooking meals for both him and his family. Just the response was overwhelming, and we just can't thank you enough. But I think that's very emblematic of the relationship that we have here with our local communities. Always supports us with whatever they can, and it really makes us feel at home. Thank you
so much.